I love knowing that there is no right or wrong. Art is completely subjective.
Painter Elizabeth Mason once stated, "I feel a strong connection to nature as many do, so I like to implement elements of grounding earth and organic textures that you can see and physically feel. The mystery of life and our existence is something that has always intrigued me, and it's something I feel drawn to express in my art. What really resonates with me the most at the moment are the contemporary pieces that are created using mixed media." Hello and welcome to Beyond the Palette. This is Whitney Rosenson, your host and president of Art Dimensions in Los Angeles. Today, I am honored to be chatting with Elizabeth Mason, an abstract landscape artist who is very new to the Art Dimensions roster. Elizabeth focuses on mixed media with an emphasis on texture, giving the landscape aspect of her pieces a striking and unique layer of warmth, depth, and dimension. There's so much to learn about this artist, and I am super excited to get to know Elizabeth better and for you all too as well. Welcome, Elizabeth. How are you today?
Hi, Whitney. Thank you for having me. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for guesting on Beyond the Palette and for giving the listeners a glimpse into your creative world.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, it's an honor. Can't wait to dive in. So let's do it. What are you up to these days in your studio?
I've been trying to make connections, a lot of connections with interior designers. I've come to the realization recently that there's a strong demand for decorative art. I just realized recently, I was like, well, that's kind of what got me started in creating my own art. We moved during the pandemic. We, had new home, more wall space, needed to decorate and design. And I went out, couldn't find anything that resonated with me. And I've always had an artistic gene. And I just thought, well, it would be really fun to create my own. And that kind of just started it, and it just snowballed from there. And I thought, well, I kind of tried to come at it from a business standpoint, like, oh, okay, well, what's going to sell? Who's going to buy my art? And I tried to appeal to the masses. But recently I just realized I think I know where I want to be, where I want to settle. And it really is, I love complementing interior design. I'm a huge fan of interior design. I don't have schooling for it, or anything, but I just admire it so much. I have a huge love for it. And I've been focusing on just making strong connections with people that I look up to, interior designers that I look up to. And it's been really fun. I went to West Edge. It's like an interior design fair. And I met so many lovely people. I mean, I'm so glad I did that because I really went out of my comfort zone. And I basically was just pitching myself to a bunch of strangers, which is, anybody who knows me knows that, like, it was just out of character for me. But I just thought, well, now's my chance. If I really want
Right.
to make a move, that's where it would be. And I'm so glad I did. I've already made some really strong connections, and hopefully, it just goes up from here. But
Awesome. Awesome. I want to talk about some of the different series that you have.
mm,
So, can you tell us about a few of them?
yeah. So one series that I feel really connected with, it's sunrise to sunset. And it's because I'm still now, even though I'm making new pieces, I'm really drawn to really earthy, warm colors. And again, with it starting with interior design, I just thought, well, what do I want on my walls? I feel connected with the nature, and I wanted something that that kind of expressed that. And yeah, I've tried to do cool colors again, and this is me just thinking at what would I like in my space, or in a space of interior designers whose work I really like. And I'm really drawn to really warm, moody. I try not to make it too moody because it can get quite dark. But the abstract landscape, a couple people have asked me, like, is that even like a genre a genre of art? But it just is, because it's not
Yes.
Yeah, it's not hugely landscape, but it's not all the way abstract either. And that is where I feel most comfortable. It's just an automatic reaction. As soon as I start painting, it's just where I go.
So the Sunrise to Sunset is one series. What's another series that you've got? You've got the Mandalore.
The Mandalore, yes. So that's that. And that also is, obviously it fits the abstract landscape, and it's also warm colors. That is probably one of the very few series that I have that doesn't incorporate a lot of texture. And so that's one of the first ones that I made that didn't have the coffee grounds, which I love using. I try to steer away from it because it's so messy, but I just love the effect it gives. But Mandalore, I don't know if you are a Star Wars fan, but my son and I, he's 9 now, we watch The Mandalorian, and we love Star Wars and the whole series. And there's a show called The Mandalorian, and there's a scene where it's just absolute gorgeous desert, landscape. And I just thought, oh, cool, I want to make that. Immediately, I wanted to create something similar.
I know that show. I've heard of that show. Wait, let's go back to the coffee grounds for a minute.
Yeah.
You use that a lot. You use
Yes.
grounds a lot in your paintings. Is that one of your favorite materials to work with? I mean, it obviously is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And tell us why, though.
So that kind of happened, again, just by experimenting, just by accident. It was definitely the first thing I used for texture. Because when I started creating pieces or art, I was like, well, what do I want it to look like? Well, I love texture. I want it to look like I can touch it and feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know people use sand and clay and dirt, and it was just one morning, literally in my house. And I know people use coffee itself, and I know artists who use coffee grounds. I've seen it, and I was like, well, I'll just try it and I'll just have a go. And so literally just in my kitchen, just threw it all on a canvas, thought it was, and I let it dry overnight. Next day, I went to go see how it turned out, hated it. And I was like, well, this didn't work out. And so I took it outside and just took a big towel and just rubbed it all off. Like I was just trying to get as much as I could off just to start over. And then what was left was like, I was like, oh, actually, this is really, after I like rubbed it and like scraped everything that would come off. And then I just kept going from there. And I think the more times I used it, I became familiar with how it sticks or how it won't stick on a canvas, and the effects it gives. If it's really saturated, when it dries, it acts as, in the desert, how the dirt and clay, how when it dries it gets all cracked.
Yeah.
And I really love that. And so I've been doing that a lot lately in my paintings with the coffee grounds. But yeah, and I've tried limestone powder. That's cool, but it's much more fine.
What other materials are you loving to work with?
Yeah, I've recently I'm using plaster, and that's really fun. It's more mud like. But I do always go back to the coffee grounds because I use the recycled coffee grounds. So it will still it actually gives a color as well, which is so helpful in my landscapes because it's like earth. So it's like it helps me get to my point quicker or more efficiently with the landscape aspect. But no, yeah, it works really well. I just wish I figured out a way. I haven't yet, maybe I will, of not, it's just so messy. It's so incredibly messy, but it's fine. It's the name of the game, I guess. But
It's amazing. I've never seen work with coffee grounds. I mean, I've seen coffee as a liquid
yeah,
art, but never the grounds. So I love that about your work.
thank you.
Thinking about your landscapes and your other paintings, can you describe your aesthetic in 3 words?
Grounding, which, was definitely an intention in the very beginning. So grounding, earthy, obviously. I don't know, maybe that's too similar.
No.
And comforting.
Those are great. That's great.
Yeah. Which is, again, grounding and comforting, those were the intentions in the beginning. What I wanted in my space, that was the goal. And, now that I'm choosing to do this as a career, that is what I want to convey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're being successful. You're having success with that.
Thank you.
I definitely do. Elizabeth, what inspires you to create?
Like when you were reading my bio, that is, I mean, that really does sum it up. I grew up in a really constricting environment. My mother was really, or is still, very religious, but in a very overbearing way. Like just very, it was a lot. It wasn't positive growing up. It's in my nature to question, because if I don't understand something, I question it, and that is not what you're supposed to do with some some religions. You don't question. Well, with my mom in particular, you don't question. You just listen, and you do what I say. Growing up, that it was because religion was such a huge thing in the household, and a lot of it was negative, and I didn't understand it. There were a lot of contradictions. It was always in the back, well, what are we, where did we come from, what is the answer? I mean, now I've just accepted that nobody knows, but what can I kind of try to boil it down to what is the point, what is the, not that I'm curious to know where we came from, but to my understanding, how can I simplify it to something that I understand the most, right? And I feel like, the universe, the earth, the universe, the whole entire universe, it's I don't need to know who made it. I don't need to know why. I just know that we're here, and it is a cycle. It is, that to me is comforting, to know that it is a cycle, because to not know what happens after we die, that doesn't scare me, which I think generally religion wants to, it wants to give people the answer, because it does scare a lot of people naturally, but I feel comfort in knowing that, when my body dies, that doesn't mean my soul is dead. I feel comfort in knowing that that we are all connected, and to me, the common denominator is nature, mother nature, and that goes beyond the earth, but the universe in itself. And so I think that's why I am drawn to nature, just personally, why I like to show that in my art, because I feel like it's a constant, aside from personal beliefs, politics, whatever, opinions about anything. I think it's just, we're here. It's just a constant. It's like as simple as that. And I guess that's where, yeah, I guess that's what motivates me.
That's so articulately said. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you. Good. I felt like I was stumbling a little bit.
No, and I appreciate that honesty and that depth that you went to. So thank you. And I think I know the listeners are going to love that too.
Good. I appreciate it.
How long have you been painting?
It's funny because as an artist, as a painter, it's been about 2 years, which is funny because some people think, especially in the journey, and people ask me and I say, oh, it just started, but actually it does go beyond that. Again, growing up in a really sheltered environment, I didn't go out a lot. I didn't have a big social life, so I did spend a lot of my time at home, and I sketched. I didn't paint on canvas, but I sketched a lot. I drew and sketched a lot.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and so I think it started there. So at a very young age, maybe 13, 12, 13, did I start sketching and really enjoying it, and painting watercolors, doing watercolors. Oh, well, in high school, I did makeup a lot for my friends, and that was fun. It's painting in a way. It's just on a face, And then I was a makeup artist for a while when I moved to LA, and that didn't stick, because that is a whole nother beast in itself. You got personalities to to handle. Painting, as generally I've been doing for quite a while, but on canvas it's very recent, couple years.
Okay. So is it safe to say that when you were young, you felt like you might be an artist one day, or that you wanted to create?
Well, it never crossed my mind to become an artist in the way that I'm trying to now. I never thought it would be possible. It never occurred like, oh, maybe I could do this. No, I mean, a makeup artist, sure, but it never crossed my mind to actually be a painter to make art. Because you're told generally, oh, you need a secure job. What's the likelihood of being successful, financially successful as a painter? You told it's
As if
really,
that is the only form of success, but which we know it's not. But
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So I was never encouraged to, and I never thought I could, or I never wondered how I could or that I could. But now I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and thankfully I've had the luxury of being a stay-at-home mom to my three kids, since they've been born. And now that they're all in school, and I love, falling upon painting and creating art, and thinking, hey, actually have my own time now. Like I can actually do something that's just for me and not for anyone else. And I think even before having kids, it was always like, what can I do to make money? I just need to survive. I need to not drown. I don't want to go back home, you know? So now creating, I really love it because I'm not doing it out of like a necessity as far financially. It's because I love doing it. Yeah, it is. I am so grateful. I recognize that is, I'm super fortunate to be in the situation where I can create and do it just solely because I love doing it, you
Mhm.
know?
So it is a necessity in another way.
Yes, for my own personal,
Yeah.
yeah, growth and satisfaction, definitely. If I knew I had to do it, and oh, I've got to make money doing this, I have to do this, or it would complete, of course it would completely change it, and I know artists do that, and it's so commendable. But it would change it for me. It would make it really stressful, which, I mean, sometimes I do it to myself without even knowing it.
Sometimes you get stressed without even knowing it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I put pressure on myself.
Mhm.
It's a very natural reaction to, I feel like there's an urgency to do it in a certain way, in a time frame. I have a deadline. I don't have a deadline, but I do tend to do that a lot. My husband, he reminds me, he's like, well, what's the point of doing it if you're stressed out? If you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it? Like, you just have to remember that you're doing this because you love it. And the more I remember that, the more effortless it is to create.
It's great advice from your husband.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
What's your favorite aspect about being an artist?
I love knowing that there is no right or wrong. Art is completely subjective. And I also love meeting other artists. It's such a welcoming community and supportive community. That meeting other artists, at galleries and exhibitions and art fairs and everything, is just, I could not have guessed that I would find that in this journey that I've started. But it just makes it 10 times better. It's amazing.
Oh, so good to hear. All
Yeah.
right. What's the hardest part about being an artist?
The self scrutiny. Yeah, I would say the hardest part is just getting out of your own head.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, that's really hard for me to, like. I feel like you kind of have to be I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but a little bit, not removed. I don't know how to say it, but I overanalyze a lot, and I do that just in life in general. The hardest part is, I guess, just being confident in my approach.
Okay. And just
Yeah,
being.
just doing it and owning it. And yeah, that's the hardest part, because I'm always wondering, who's going to shit on this, who's going to hate on this, and it's just silly.
Yeah. Well, that prevents well, I don't know. I'm not a painter, but it limits it's a
Mhm.
limit,
Yeah.
as
Yes.
opposed to being limitless,
Hmm.
which is how you want your paintings to be, I hope.
Yes. Yeah. No.
I was just saying that because that's a feeling I get when I look at your landscapes. They feel limitless to me.
Oh, well, that's amazing.
They really do. I mean, the palette, the texture, the movement, all of it.
Oh my God, that's so good to hear. Thank you.
It's true. It's true. If you were granted $1 million for an this is a fun question. If you were granted $1 million for an art project, what would you do?
My first thought is to make something as big as possible.
Okay.
You know what? Actually, my husband took me to the Basquiat, I hope I'm saying that right, exhibition in downtown LA for my
I
birthday.
saw that King of Pleasure.
Yeah. And that last room, when you walk out, it's the very, very last one. And there's his two biggest paintings, I believe. A friend of ours, he runs that exhibition, and he was telling us about how much they had to insure that room for, which was shocking. But looking at those paintings, and I was just, my first thought was, how did he do it? How are they so big? Like, I don't see a seam anywhere. There's like, I don't know how big they were, but 20 feet tall, maybe. I don't know. They were just so massive and long, length and width and height. And I think if I had $1 million to create something, I think I would try and make it as big as possible. I guess I would try to make a textured landscape as maybe that size. I mean, it would take so long and so much material.
You could make a series with $1 million.
I can make, yeah.
Many more than one.
Yeah.
Those would be beautiful.
Thank you. I would hope so. Yeah. That would really stress me out, but it would be a fun try.
Okay. Do you have a message or philosophy behind your images or your paintings?
What I was tapping on, talking about with where we come from, meaning of life. It's really just, I don't know if I have a message. That's one of those things that I feel insecure about, because I know I admire artists who have a really strong message in their artwork. I think my stuff is one of the goals is just to be aesthetically pleasing and complement interior design.
Okay.
It does stem from, how do I feel about our existence, about where we come from, and it's just a connection to creation, and that's just being Earth, Mother Earth, nature, just that in itself. That it's so simple, but to me, that's all I need to know. It's comforting to me.
The other way I could word the question is, what do you hope people will get from your creations? And maybe it's that comfort.
It's the same. Yeah, totally. What I see when I look at it, it is comforting, because it is, to me, like I was saying, that one of the three words, it's grounding. I do feel it makes me feel connected to something bigger than us. That connection, I would hope people would feel that as well.
Yep. I know I do.
Oh, good.
All right. I want to wrap up a little bit with
Awesome.
just some off the cuff fun questions.
Okay.
So the first thing that comes to your mind, what's your favorite season?
Fall, for sure.
Okay. Favorite color?
Oh my God, my kids ask me this all the time. And I always either say, and they go, that's not a color. Because I would normally say like white or gold.
Well, gold is a color.
Gold's a color. Yeah, we'll go with gold.
Okay. And your favorite, do you listen to music when you paint?
Yes.
Okay, your favorite music to listen to when you're painting?
Oh, that's really hard, because it's different moods. I listen to almost everything, but I would say what is on repeat the most, it would either be Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Or Sam Fender. And they're very different genres, but if you don't know who Sam Fender is, he's really amazing. He's kind of like a young British Bruce Springsteen. He's incredible.
How do I spell Fender? Fender?
Like the guitar.
Okay.
Yeah. But I love Taylor Swift. I didn't become a fan until the pandemic. She released those albums during the pandemic, and that's when I really got stuck. But yeah, those two I would say are probably the most frequent.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. And my last one, what's your favorite food?
Italian. I could eat pasta a lot.
The comfort.
Yeah, I think I would say Italian.
Yes, I would too. Elizabeth, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. I'm so glad we connected here today.
Thank you.
Everybody, please take a look at the Art Dimensions site, which is artdimensionsonline.com, and Elizabeth's personal site, which is www.elizabethmasonfineart.com, for more information on her and to see stunning images. If you're on the Art Dimensions site, go to the homepage, click where it says artist in the upper right-hand corner, and then scroll down to Elizabeth's thumbnail and name. And if you click on that, you'll see her paintings. Also, her Instagram handle is at emason_art.studio. Again, that's emason_art.studio. So be sure to follow her on Instagram as well. You'll see some beautiful
Yay.
visions. So before we sign off, Elizabeth, is there anything else you'd like everyone or you'd like the listeners to know about you?
No, I think we touched on a lot of good points. I think that sums me up pretty nicely.
Okay, well, there's so much more, but today we don't have time for that much more. So I just want to say thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to Beyond the Palette. I wish you all and Elizabeth a productive month, the happiest of holidays, and happy creating.
Yay, thank you.